We done with the 90s, man. Get that shit up out of here, man. Get that prison ball up out of here, man. We done with the 90s. As I'm wearing a 90s shirt, but ignore Spider-Man. He's generational. But we done with the 90s. Done with Let me stop. So, this isn't your typical episode of mine, as you know, it's a special, I guess, one-off episode that I'm doing just to address, the commotion in the NBA community. Now, obviously, if you're not involved in the NBA community or you're just not paying attention to it, there's been this thing going around. There's been this thing going around on Twitter, Instagram, all over YouTube now. A bunch of other basketball creators have made videos on it now and all this other stuff. Ignore my hair. I'm getting a cut this weekend, so you know what I'm saying. But a content creator by the name of Peak Town Podcast, I believe his name is, and essentially going back and looking at old footage of 90s games and 80s games, mainly just 90s games, and essentially showing why it's not that great as the old heads tried to make it out to be. And essentially that's just been going crazy. It's just been taking off. It's just been taking off. You got people all under NBA posts, anything dealing with Michael Jordan. We're done with the 90s. Chilltown, another content creator, one of the OGs, the older heads in basketball right now, on Player's Choice, essentially fighting for his life. He's been having to defend the 90s in a sense. And I essentially just came on here to react to the content with y'all and give my opinion on the 90s, because I rarely talk 90s ball with y'all. I rarely talk old basketball with y'all, like older basketball. So I don't think y'all really know my take on it. So, not even a take. I wouldn't even say it's a bad take in a sense. I don't think I have a bad take when it comes to 90s ball. But I don't know what I'm saying. We'll see. But obviously, I think some of the most popular ones is him talking about Jordan. If I can find, here it is. This is the one that the one that took off the most, where he was talking about how Michael Jordan doesn't have a left hand.
We done with the 90s. Somebody gonna explain this to me. Here go your goat pushing it. Why won't he use his left hand? He just jumped in the air and came down with it. That's garbage. You travel. Don't get mad at the ref. You travel. Hollering and screaming at the ref when you just jumped up in the air and refused to use your left hand. You gonna try to get mad at the ref. I can't stand when they do that. Look at this. What the ref got?
Okay. I find this funny because in that sense, let me look. Let me actually look at this real quick.
To use your left hand. You gonna try to get mad at the
level.
Ref. I can't stand when they do that. Look at this.
In that sense, first off, that is a block. But in that sense, how is that? What situation does he need to go out with his left in that? Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I'm tripping. Let me
look at this.
Okay, this is a better look at it.
This is garbage. Use the left hand.
This nigga's trash. I will say this. This dude is funny though. I'm not going. This nigga's funny.
We done with the 90s. Let them tell it. Magic Johnson.
Oh, and it's also not just Mike.
He was garbage.
Okay. Another thing, I don't remember anyone saying Magic Johnson had a bag. I think it was pretty well documented, like at least from like people that watched basketball a little bit. It was very well documented that the nigga Magic Johnson didn't have a bag. He was just known for great post work or good to great post work. Obviously, the greatest point guard of all time. Could pass the hell out of the basketball. Could run a fast break. Do the things that a traditional point guard to do. But I was never under the impression that Magic Johnson had a bag. if that makes sense. I was never under the impression that
What's
Magic
this?
Johnson
He
had a
ain't
bag.
got no move.
We'll watch one more.
Big trash. What did this big trash movie do? That's trash.
Yeah, I'm not watching it. Okay. So essentially, that's it. That's really, and it's just more of that, more of Magic Johnson, really 90s and 80s. He has one with a game with Larry Bird and Michael Jordan as well. Also, just them saying, "Oh yeah, these motherfuckers ain't got no bag, man. These niggas ain't got no bag." And then you have also other content creators on TikTok and stuff like that going as far as charting. As again, one game of Michael Jordan in the 91 finals, essentially talking about all the times that he went left and what was the percentage and how many times he turned the ball over opposed to the times he went right. You have Isaiah Thomas going on podcasts, on all the smoke podcasts, saying like, yeah, our game plan was to force Jordan left because he didn't have great handles, he can dribble, blah, 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 blah. Which with Isaiah Thomas is kind of hard to really take his word for it because he actively hates Jordan. But and then it's just more and more stuff. Now, my opinion on we done with the 90s. We done with the 80s. We done with that old basketball. I think I've said on here, I've called 90s ball prison ball. Joking, but in the sense I was very serious. Joking, but I'm quite serious. I've been under the impression that 90s ball is not nearly, not even just 90s ball. 90s defense is not nearly as hyped up as the old heads try to make it out to be. There's been so many instances, so many times where we go back and you simply go back and turn on a finals game, go back and turn on a playoff game, go back and turn on a very hyped up type of game. Them motherfuckers are just knocking the hell out of each other and calling it defense. And I addressed this when I was talking about the NBA has a scoring problem and shit like that. But that's not defense. Fouling intentionally is not defense. It's not good defense, if that makes sense. That's not good defense. You're not taught from a young age the right way, I should say. A right coach, a smart coach is not going to teach you from a young age until you make it to the pros to foul intentionally, with that being called good defense. No. If you can't move your feet, nigga, you can't move your feet. That's not good defense. So I feel I've already said my piece about 90s defense. Now, 90s offense and ball and bag talk, I've kind of strayed away from it because that's unfair to look at past generations and pose to say like music or fashion or TV shows or whatever with through the lens of a 2024 person. You going back to look at 1991 basketball through the lens of 2024 is kind of dumb. It's not kind of dumb. It is dumb to expect them to be tween, hezzy cross, pull step back from three. Them niggas not doing that shit back in the 90s. They're just not. They're just not. So I'm on the side of the 90s in the sense of it's unfair to be like, oh, these niggas didn't have a bag. These niggas ain't. Jordan never had the tween, hezzy pull. Like, Jordan wasn't doing that shit. Because for one, nobody was doing that shit. Nobody was doing that shit. And if you were a very select few of people that were doing it. So, but the thing I will say this, the thing of Jordan not having a left hand, and that sparked up the conversation of, oh, if Jordan was playing in today's game, he would just be Jaylen Brown. Like, the fact that it's easier said than done is that, oh, we're just going to force him left. Oh, we're just going to force him to do this. Oh, we're just going to be physical. Oh, we're just going to do this. It's easier said than done with a player of the caliber of Michael Jeffrey Jordan. The Pistons, the bad boy Pistons, one of the greatest teams of the 80s and 90s, whatever you want to say. Their main game plan was to force Jordan left because he could not go left. And also beat the shit out of him. But forget that part. I'm not gonna address that part. But just strictly just beat him and force him left. Once he got stronger and figured that out, How much of a success was that? Zero. Once that nigga Jordan got over the hump, essentially being the Pistons, those niggas was never a problem again. So scoot that shit aside. Also, another thing, if the entire league knows that Michael Jordan cannot go left and they're forcing him to go left, how the fuck does he end up with 6 championships? How does he end up with all those MVPs? How does he end up with all those scoring titles? How does he end up with, you know what I'm saying? How does he essentially dominate an entire era of basketball with essentially one hand? Tell me, how does that make sense? It doesn't, right? Because the nigga had a left hand. What? Again, and the thing is, a lot of these clips, or a lot of these things that are being taken out of context, essentially the 91 finals, that is still a young Michael Jordan. We're not seeing clips of Jordan when it's in 96, 97. We're not seeing Jordan from when he was on the 72 and 10 Bulls. We're not seeing 96 Jordan even. We're not seeing an older, more seasoned veteran version of a Michael Jordan. We're seeing a Jordan that's still getting his feet wet in the league. We're showing Jordan when he's a rookie still, or not even a rookie. They're showing Jordan when he's his first finals, his first serious test, his first genuine success in the league, team success, I should say. So again, let's stop this. Let's stop taking it at least too serious to the point where niggas is trying to push this narrative that Michael Jordan is ass. Let's not do that. Let's not do that where we're trying to push this narrative that Michael Jordan is an ass basketball player because he couldn't go left. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Let's just stop it. Let's dead that in the water right now. So, with that being said, I'm 50-50 on this because I can tell just by the way the dude was talking. He wasn't that serious. He probably had some type of serious intent behind it in terms of, 90s basketball isn't as hyped up as OGs tried to make it out to be. But this shit is not. I can tell the nigga was joking. But for all the people that's taking it seriously and trying to push this narrative and there's a weakness in every single era. If you want to say 60s ball, they played against plumbers and milkmen. I truly believe that. I'm not joking. 70s, they were on crack. And there's nothing else. Nothing else. And on top of that, 70s had like no star power. 80s, Magic, Bird, everyone else didn't exist. 90s, really is no offense. Can't go left. The skills weren't that skilling. Like what? I don't know. 2000s, not as aggressive as the 90s. Personally, I think the 2000s is the best basketball era ever, but I'll get into another video. 2010s going forward, there was no defense being played. So it's like there's something like looking forward for like shit in 2030. They're gonna look back at the 20s and be like, yeah, y'all niggas didn't play no defense. Like, oh, this is Steph Curry? Like, we have 17 Wembanyama's. We have 17 7-4 guys that can just dribble and shoot from half court. What do I need a Steph Curry for? That nigga's ass. And then you got someone like me coming to defend Steph Curry because context matters. You see, context matters. Just how the old heads are crapping continuously on today's league when Luka dropped 73, mind you, on a very bad defensive team in the Atlanta Hawks, saying, oh, they're not throwing simple, they're not switching it up, they're just running man and giving no effort. Shut up. You choose 1 to 2 clips showing Luka just beating them or just being wide open and just run with it. When he was getting doubled, they were throwing every best defender that Atlanta had, not the league, Atlanta. Again, not a great defensive team. They were throwing different looks at him. Luka is just that good offensively. And if you want to look at the rest of the league in today's game, oh, wait, it's the best offensive league or era of basketball that this game has ever seen and that it'll probably ever see. And it'll probably just continuously get better and better and better and better and better and better and better. So let's just dead that in the water, man. Let's just dead that. Now, that's me defending the 90s. It's me defending it. However, I'm kind of done with the 90s and the 80s, man. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of done with it. I'm kind, you know what I'm saying? I'm kind. Let me stop. No, but in the defense of today's game, I don't blame them because what has continuously the older generation of basketball done to this newer generation of basketball, and that continues to happen and happen and happen and happen and happen and happen, so forth and so forth. Honestly, I think that hopefully that trend dies out with this current generation. So when LeBron them done, and when Giannis gets to a point where he's too old to play the game, when Jokic gets to a point where he's too old, and Embiid and Devin Booker and fucking Luca and all those dudes get too old, and they actually hopefully praise the next generation of basketball players and not just tear them down like every single older generation tends to do. But this is why I personally don't have that big of an issue with it. Just for the simple fact that 90s basketball players, and it's not even just ones that not even just OGs like my dad or my uncles, or just someone at a barbershop that you hear talk about today's game, which those people also, not all of them, but it's a good few of the older generation that has their gripes with today's game, rightfully so. But when you see a Charles Barkley continuously, day in and day out, talk shit about today's game, you see someone like a Shaq, you see someone like these other phenomenal players that was back in the 90s continuously crap on today's league. And it makes it even worse because everyone has a podcast. Hell, I have a podcast, which you're watching. Shout out to these guys. But every former NBA player has a podcast. Rasheed Wallace, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Gilbert Arenas, all these fucking former players, whether they've been in the 90s, early 2000s, or whatever the case may be, all have podcasts. And they all sound like broken records because they're all saying that today's league, outside of some few, some few have been treading towards that, actually giving praise to today's game instead of just shitting on it continuously. Today's game is ass because there's no defense being played. Today's game is ass because the players don't try hard enough. Today's game is ass because everybody's too buddy, this, that, and the third. Woo, woo, woo. I'm not saying they can't critique the game, but the fact that y'all have been doing this shit since I've been alive, I don't have a problem with it. Fuck 90s ball. Fuck it. Let me stop. But I personally don't have a problem with it. I don't. Because y'all have been doing that to us. Y'all have been doing that to our brand of basketball for as long as I can remember. For as long as I can remember. I'm 24. They have been doing this for a very long time. So when we dish it back and we go back and look, hey, Jordan couldn't go left. Hey, Charles Barkley had zero bag. Zero bag. Charles Barkley tried to go form a super team in Portland before he went to Phoenix. But he's talking about KD every week. Shaq had zero bag. What? Isaiah Thomas couldn't do a cross. AI couldn't go left, which he said on a big podcast on with Shaq. He said, I don't like going left. He said, I can go left, but I don't like it. Hey, man, I'm cool with it. But in all, I don't think we need to take this that seriously. I don't think we need to take it that serious. I think it's all fun and games. At the end of the day, again, I think the dude that essentially created this trend, I don't think he was serious. I don't think it was that big of a deal. For the people that are taking it that serious and are trashing 90 players, think about this. We wouldn't have jelly layups without Michael Jordan. I'm just saying. No, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments down below. Are you done with 90s ball? Are you done with the 80s? I'm personally done with the 80s. I'm not gonna I could care anything 80s and before. I'm not really taking that serious. I'm not. It's just the eras are too different. Players are just too skilled. I'm not really taking that serious. 90s and going forward, you got my attention. But anything past that, I'm not. I can't take it serious. I really can't. But Let me know you guys' opinions down below. Let me know if you like these type of formats. You like me, just doing these little one-offs here and there, just talking about certain things. It doesn't even have to be basketball related. It could be UFC, football, baseball whenever I get to it. But also, speaking of football, NFL free agency is currently happening, and I'm not going to talk about it today. It'll be probably later this week, but once it's like done, I'll talk about it. But let me know you guys' thoughts down below. Are you done with 90s and 80s ball, man? I mean, have y'all gone back and watched these old games? And I'm not saying skim through, I'm not saying watch the highlights. Have y'all gone back and sit down and watched an old 90s game? Do that. That's y'all test for today. Go back and watch an old Michael Jordan NBA Finals against the Jazz, or watch him play against Portland. Go watch one of those games and really dissect 90s ball, not through the lens of today, but just go dissect it as just basketball purists. But make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all those great things. I hope you guys enjoy this video. I will see y'all later this week. I love you guys, and yeah.